Good afternoon, brothers, and welcome to the second episode of Pod Kappa Tau, the podcast about anything and everything Phi Kappa Tau. Today, we sit down with a man some of you may be familiar with, the Director of Chapter Services, Mr. Tristan Conroy, to discuss his role with the executive offices, how he has risen through the ranks per se in Phi Tau, and how his Chapter Services team continues to adapt and improve to better services our chapters today. Enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Director of Chapter Services, Mr. Tristan Conroy. Tristan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Zach. How about yourself?
Doing well. Just enjoying the beautiful weather here in Oxford. Hope the rain holds
know.
off.
Finally, the rain gets away from us, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, talk to me a little bit about, just your Phi Tau experience. So, you're from Center College, Delta Chapter.
Yeah, that's right. Center College in Danville, Kentucky, Delta Chapter. So, we were the fourth. And while I was there, we actually celebrated our centennial. So, we're a little over 100 years, which is pretty exciting.
That's awesome. What's it like representing a single letter chapter?
You know, I feel like, honestly, it's like most of the rest, right? It's kind of like your experience. I know you're from an older chapter. Not quite as old as mine, obviously, but I only know it from the guys that were seniors when I joined as a freshman. So I don't know the folks that are now past that would be 150 years old. So, but yeah, no, it's cool. Obviously, the history there, the history that chapter serves on the campus, is pretty nice, and being from UNT Bowles chapter. It's a little special. So that's the cool part, if you ask me.
Yeah, especially for an honorary founder. That's really cool. Do you still remember your badge number?
Ooh, so I believe, and we'll have to look it up in our database after this. You got me. I believe it's 97859.
Okay.
I know the last three are 859 because that was the area code of Center. So that's the only thing I know.
I'm going to say you're probably 90 because I'm 94. I'm 94648. So I'm going to say you're a little bit ahead of me.
Yeah, probably. That's embarrassing. That wasn't big in my chapter, right? That part of the experience and coming here with some people like knowing theirs and all of their information like the back of their hand, it's interesting what is important to each chapter, right? I mean, I think we were talking about the other day, right? Like the Brotherhood song, some people sing it fast. We chanted it, so it was pretty quick. Other people sing it as it's supposed to be sung. It's fascinating. What's important to each chapter.
Right, that, and I think the other thing, just from doing expansion that's funny, is watching some of these alumni come back, and when we give them their associate pins, when they try and put them on, just the different places that the alumni put them, it's like, that's not really right.
Yeah.
I'll let it slide.
Public service announcement, the membership badge is not supposed to go on the lapel of a suit jacket.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
Convention is bad.
Oh, I'm sure. So how did you get your start here at the executive offices?
Yeah, so I was looking for a job like most people senior year. I was kind of late to the game. I didn't really start till maybe March. And so I had applied to a few other positions, and I got an email about the position here. Actually for the foundation, which was something I was pretty interested in. I was looking at an opportunity at my alma mater as well, and decided to throw my name and a resume on a whim. Got a call to do a phone screen with Travis Robinson, our chief operating officer, during my senior year spring break. And so I did a phone screen, kind of explained, what I thought I would want out of this role, and it seemed to match. He got me up here about a week and a half later, and about a week after that, I was extended an offer and accepted, and have been here since June 15th, 2015. So almost 4 complete rounds around the sun, and excited for many more, hopefully.
You initially started off in the foundation, correct?
So I initially started off in the success manager role. So yeah, when I spoke with Travis, he told me the foundation role had been filled.
Okay.
And so, I think my initial plan maybe at that time was when we come into this success manager position, which was brand new at the time, and then see what it's like, and then potentially move to the foundation if that made sense. But the chapter services side has kind of kept me over here with the fraternity.
Right. So what was probably your favorite part just of being a success manager since, you were the first one?
Yeah, so I really enjoy trying to build things new or rehashing them, right? There'd always been a chapter services department on the staff, but to be able to come in here and be able to implement some of the ideas that Logan Lukács, he was also new to the role but had been on staff before for years, a recruiter. I just thought it was an exciting time to try to get in. And, I was a chapter president, so I had my own frustrations with the executive offices at that time. And so I knew I was trying to overcome those obstacles that I had experienced to make it easier. And, the first one that we thought of was just trying to open up the communication. So how can we be more in front of folks and allow them to ask questions when things come up? So that was really exciting. And the other thing that's really kind of kept me around here is just the growth I've seen the organization take, right? In terms of membership, in terms of philanthropy, with last year hitting just at $130,000 for serious fun.
Wow.
Which, our previous high was just over $100,000. So, we're hoping to grow that based on our partnership. Obviously an amazing opportunity for some of our senior leadership to attend their gala and be recognized in front of, faces like Trevor Noah and other celebrities was a really cool experience for them. And it was cool to see pictures come out after the event.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Phi Kappa Tau was just recognized by Serious Fun for our philanthropic ventures with them. And like Tristan said, we got to be in front of Trevor Noah and be recognized in front of that. And our national president, Bill Brash, actually gave a speech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure it was great.
Yeah, I'm sure it is too. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that if it ever comes out. But have you seen the actual award that we got?
I haven't. Is it here?
It's here. It's Tim Hudson, the CEO, showed it to me, and it's basically like a brick but glass. And it's
what?
It weighs probably 20 pounds, I'd say.
Oh my gosh!
It's pretty heavy.
As soon as we get done with this, I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah,
take a snack.
Do that. So then, after the success manager, did you go straight to chapter services, or the director of chapter services, or were you the associate director for a time being?
Yeah. So when I first came in, like I said, I did the success manager position for a year, and then at that time, I was able to move up to our associate director of chapter services. We didn't have a director at the time, but just based on our progression and how the titles kind of work for us, that was the next step for me. So in that role, I oversaw our two success managers for a year. And then moving on, if that's all right, from that, the second year, I became the director of chapter services, got to oversee Cecily, who does a lot of our member billing, member roster management, some logistics a little bit in terms of shipping, and a lot of other things behind the scenes like most of us do. And then now in my third year, kind of in that leadership role, I've added Jess Schabel, who's our director of education and wellness, under my plate as well. And just trying to juggle everything. And what I've told folks is my job is just try to get out of the way, because we have plenty of great people on our team to be able to make decisions, and sometimes they just need a little help with a little push, and we're good, and that's part of the role, right? Right.
Yeah, it definitely seems like, you got, like you said, you got a lot of different areas that you get to kind of work with and get to see for the fraternity, so it sounds like a really interesting and cool role.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's nice to be able to try to add folks and see how we can work together as a team, right? As basically the support and the operations team of the fraternity to help support, our 4,500 undergraduate members, or about that at the moment, as well as the 94 active chapter and colonies that we have.
Right. Being with the director of chapter services, you get to travel a little bit. You just got back from Vegas.
I did, yeah. So I was at a professional conference, the Fraternity Executives Association conference in Las Vegas, which was my first time to Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you like it?
I liked it. It was nice, but I didn't realize how expensive things were. I should have maybe done a Google search ahead of time, but even like a Coke, right, from a vending machine's like $4. And, here being a Midwest kid, originally from Kentucky, now living in Ohio, I'm used to like $1.25. So hit the bank account a little bit, lost some money in blackjack, but it was all good. So.
Hey, that sounds like a good trip. I kind of feel you there, because coming back from Los Angeles, having to pay, I think I had to pay $6 just for a little pack of watermelon and water for lunch. Coming back here, and when my breakfast was $5 for like eggs, sausage, and pancakes, I seriously think my mouth dropped.
Yeah. Well, welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Midwest.
Yeah, the Midwest prices are definitely nice. So you said it was a professional conference. What all does that entail for you?
Yeah, sure. So it was a lot of folks in my role or similar, so directors of chapter services or collegiate member services, or different titles, but kind of the same role. And then a lot of executive directors, chief executive officers, and then assistant EDs or COOs. So it was great to see a lot of familiar faces, right? We do a lot of these kind of traveling educational opportunities throughout the summer particularly. So it's nice to see familiar faces. I've got a few friends in other orgs in the industry, and it's always good to catch up with them. But we learned a lot about, kind of some leadership stuff. And it reminded me of Leadership Academy. I never got to go. That was the one program I didn't get to do as an undergraduate, but I facilitated it last year. And it was a great opportunity to just kind of get that refresh, right? Hit the reset button on some things, start new, hear from other folks and some of their struggles, and know that we're all in it together. I think that's one of the great things with our industry is, while on a local campus, it might be Phi Tau versus Beta. Here together, we do summer trainings together, and we talk about what are the industry's issues and what are our strengths and how do we try to work to address some of those things.
Yeah, I like the illusion you said, kind of like Leadership Academy. It's, everybody has different stories and different things that they deal with, and you can easily, take it back to your organization or your chapter from a Leadership Academy standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of shifting things,
Sure.
You said now you're in, your third total year, going on your fourth year, being with the fraternity and being a first success manager. How have you seen that role kind of progress as the 4 years have gone on with your time here?
Yeah, I've seen it grow a lot, which is exciting, and I'm glad to all the folks that have served in that position. We've now had 6 go through that and about to add our 7th individual to that team over the past 4 years. And it's just cool to be able to see, when Logan and I first started, our goals were, like I said, just trying to introduce the role, and we had a lot of pushback initially from some folks. But other folks were hungry for it. And now it seems like everybody kind of understands what the position is. They might not understand all the details that go into it, but it's great that we're not having to re-explain ourselves in that way, and we can help push it forward. And Brandon has been leading that team for us in his work with Alex and Jacob as the 2 current success managers. They've gone through kind of an assessment and did a SWOT analysis of the position, and have developed some key performance indicators that they want to hold themselves to, which is, I guess, quote unquote, the boss myself. That's awesome to see, right? It's like they're taking the leadership to make those things come true. And I'm excited for what this position is going to be here over this upcoming year and years in the future, because I think it's just going to continue to grow. So
for your role, do you get to sit on the national council calls?
Yeah, so I typically, they meet 3 times a year in person. I'll attend all of those, and then I'll attend a majority of the conference calls. They meet once a month, so I'll attend a majority of them.
What went into the decision for a third success manager? Like you had mentioned, we're adding a third person on. So kind of talk about like that decision, where you see the position going now with the third one. Yeah,
so staffing decisions ultimately rest with our CEO, Tim Hudson, actually. But I know this is something that's been brought up from a variety of our stakeholders, right? From the council has mentioned this to our staff, to advisors, to undergraduates, trying to just get more resources, more support, and then also improve those resources and support models as well. And so it made logical sense for us to add a third person to help try to bring the ratio down of success managers to chapters, and allow them to fill more of their time with some of the leadership coaching that we know is important, some of the advising to the advisors, and helping them grow, because that's critical for our organization and its success. And then also just trying to be able to see the opportunities that are there and try to actually take advantage versus just wait until the summer to try to work on some of these projects.
Right. So do you think that we could potentially move towards more of a regional consultant model?
Yeah. So, it's an interesting question. We've looked at different models for our staff a lot, and things have changed, obviously, right? When I came in 4 years ago, it was a new model in some regards. I think there is importance of face-to-face interaction, but how or when or why those take place has been the questions we've tried to ask, right? Lots of folks say, well, we never see you. And we say, okay, well, let's think about that, right? Like, what would a visit look like? And, typically we don't feel like the answer makes sense. And so, if somebody just needs help answering a question about how to submit a report on Chapter Spot, or how to pay a bill, we don't think we need to be there in person to be able to do that. And so one of our goals and one of our duties has been on responsiveness, because I think that's critical for folks in the generation that we're dealing with college students, is responsiveness and getting answers quickly. And when I look at our industry and those guys are on the road 5 to 6 hours every other day traveling to a new chapter, you can't work when you're on the road unless you're taking phone calls, which is fine. But that's not the generation we're working with either, right? They're much more in tune with text and messaging. And so that has been kind of one of the things that we've looked at. We're not opposed to trying to travel, but we want to travel when it makes sense, because there's obviously an expense factor with that as well.
Right.
But, with our due structure changing a little bit, we're excited to be able to just have the opportunity to not always be forced to say no.
Right. Yeah. I think that could definitely be helpful and impactful, especially on, some chapters might, need it more than others. Like you said, if it makes sense, then, you'd love to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked about this on last week's episode with a couple of the recruiters, but just wanted to, get your take on it as well. But how important is an alumni board to a chapter's success?
Yeah, so I'm sure they said really important. It would be the same answer I have, but what we've noticed, particularly Brandon and I, who've been on staff for a little longer, along with other folks, is that it's all about the relationship, right? And so one of the things that we have seen is, when I was chapter president, I dealt with my board of governors quite frequently, right, with the monthly meetings. And we had our chapter advisor was on campus, worked there at the time. And so one of the things that we realized is that folks have different ideas of what that role is. And so one of the things that we've noticed is that the groups that have success have a coaching relationship, right? It's the same thing professionally, right? I read a lot of these Inc.com, Harvard Business Review articles, and they're always talking about managers, bosses, leadership, really focusing on coaching their team, right? And so we have tried to change our mindset to that, and we're hoping that advisors hop on board with that, because we see that as the future. We see that as helping to grow and develop the chapters versus providing all the answers and not asking sometimes the tough questions and sometimes the in-depth questions. Typically when we ask an advisor that's new to the role and hasn't been mentored himself or herself for that matter, we see that they ask just, how are things going? And, you're going to get an answer and it's probably going to say good, right? Just kind of the default. And so, how do you change that to say, well, look, you told me your goal at the beginning of your term was to increase philanthropy dollars by $200 per member, right? That might seem pretty lofty, and that's okay, right? And so it's all about trying to get the continuous coaching out of that. So how are we doing on that? And looking at that versus just, have you hit your goal yet? No. Okay, next, right? Like just trying to get through the meetings. And so we see that as kind of the future, hopefully, of our advising is much more the coaching mindset.
Right. And I think that, with the coaching mindset, it could be good because I know from my chapter, especially the BOG chair said, look, like when I was in the president's role and I was an undergrad, like the BOG was breathing down my neck and it just got annoying. But I think, like you said, if we can move more towards like a coaching model and definitely, these board of governors and alumni can learn this through the VDI program, the Volunteer Development Institute that Phi Tau puts on. I think that will ultimately also help with success, especially for chapters that definitely need a strong board and strong alumni support, as well as, strong recruitment classes to keep themselves kind of going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So whenever a chapter hits, a PR crisis or a risk management crisis, are you usually the first one at the executive offices to find out?
Yeah, so great question. If they call and they explain what it is, yes. Most of the times our chapter presidents obviously have a really great relationship, or at least a better relationship with our success managers versus myself. So they're typically the first ones to find out. But ultimately everything kind of hits my desk.
Right. So do you kind of have like, I know that you're obviously the head of the success managers. Are you kind of the one that has the final say in certain things, or would that have to go through the CEO, Tim, as well?
Yeah, so it really depends. So we try to partner with the university. I think the statistics are roughly 70% of our investigations notice of an investigation come from the university directly through their conduct department. So we know they're going to do their own investigation. And so what our role then becomes is an advocate for our chapter, helping to explain to our chapter leadership and volunteer leadership, what does this look like on this campus? Here's what we can expect. And also us trying to figure out, are these allegations true? Are these allegations false? Why either way? And how do we address them either way? So we can go back to the conduct professionals and say, hey, look, I'm kind of a third party here in some regard, but, here's what we were able to find out. Our chapter leadership would tell you the same thing. Here's what we think is probably the best fit in terms of, educational opportunities, maybe sanctions, and heck, maybe even a closure, depending on the chapter, the situation, right? There's a lot that goes into that.
Right.
And then kind of move from there. So we have different levels, and based on each of those levels, dictate who gets involved on our staff. Or if it's a closure, then Tim will typically brief our national council and our board and explain to them that, look, this is what's occurred. And then it's up to them at a council level to vote on closures and suspension of charters.
So it sounds like, just from the picture that you painted, that ultimately we as executive offices will work as an ally, because, there's often a misconception of we're out to get people or something like that, which completely isn't true. But, it sounds like the only time where we would not be an ally is like, okay, like we might have to shut this down.
Yeah, and even then, I'd argue that we're still an ally, right? I mean, our job is to protect the organization, and the organization consists of nearly 100,000 initiated members, right? 65,000, 70,000 living alumni, 94 chapters and colonies, 45 to 5,000 undergraduate members. And so what one chapter does is going to have an impact on all the rest. And that's just the nature of it. And so, we're obviously about accountability and expectations. We believe our expectations are made clear through our policy and through our education efforts, and we just go forward from there.
And lastly, with Conclave coming up this summer,
do
you have a favorite part of Conclave?
Yeah, so I think it's really cool to see other people's reactions and faces during our Pride Tour, where we walk around Miami's campus and come visit the UNT Bulls, Delta shout out, executive offices. We live and work basically in this office. And so sometimes I take for granted all the cool stuff here, but to see a new face experience it for the first time that's priceless for me. And it's really cool and kind of lifts my spirit back up.
I'm definitely going to be one of those faces. So I'm excited to see my
I'm
first
glad.
conclave. But what would you say is a restaurant or restaurants that brothers have to try while in town?
Yeah, I'm a Skipper's fan. True and tried. And I think, the cool fun fact about Skipper's is that during a period of time in our history in Oxford, our office was moving, I believe is the story. And so we actually sublet the top floor of Skipper's, which is now called Top Deck, as our office. And Skipper's is a great kind of counter service lunch spot. So when folks get in on early Friday and they can't wait till the dinner time to eat, Skipper's is the first restaurant on High Street just off campus, and it's a go-to for me.
Sounds like a good recommendation for sure. They have good gyros or gyros, whatever you want to call them.
Gyros, come on.
I know. It's gyros around here. Other people call them gyros, but that's definitely a cool story. I had no idea that we were actually sublet the top floor of Skipper's.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for coming on the show. I had a great time talking to you, and hopefully the listeners gain some insight into what you do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, thanks so much, Zach. Appreciate it.
Well, that's it for episode 2. Hope you all enjoyed getting a little bit of insight into Tristan's position and his department, as well as get yourselves a nice restaurant recommendation for Conclave. Speaking of that, Conclave is July 12th through the 14th this summer. You will not want to miss the Phi Tau homecoming to where we were founded just 113 years ago in beautiful Oxford, Ohio. You'll get to see all of our historic landmarks on Miami's campus, as well as get to attend our Series Funathon, which hopefully your chapter is fundraising for. Your chapter will get philanthropy credit for it. Check out the Phi Kappa Tau social media pages at Phi Kappa Tau for more details. Also, sign up your chapter's 2 representatives for Leadership Academy. The Colorado session just closed and is this week, but you still have time to sign up for Georgia. Thanks again for listening. All hope you have a great week, and remember to tune in next Monday when we interview the Member Services Coordinator, Cecily McGahee.
We are brothers now and ever, until the day we die. And when that time comes rolling round, and we bid our last goodbye, there is one thing sure and certain: let us bow our heads in awe. We'll